Everybody. Okay. Calling to order the March 2026 meeting, Lower Suffolk Planning Commission. First order of business is review and possible approval of the minutes from the February meeting. Everyone should have seen those by now. Any changes, additions, deletions? None. Motion to accept as submitted. I do it. Thank you. Second, carries with the second. All in favor? Any opposed? And I will speak as well. I've not been here. So we'll do 502. Thank you. All right, into the plan reviews. First plan 488 Harrisville Pike.
Good evening.
Fabio.
Nice to see everyone. Kristen Pianzio from Hamburg, Rubin, Mullen, Maxwell, and Lupin here with my team to discuss our review of the preliminary plan for the Orleans subdivision at 488 Harleysville Pike. To remind you, we have our PennDOT permit for our entry. We have our MPDES permit. We have preliminary plan approval from the supervisors that was given to us in January. We are here for your recommendation for final. We are working through our outside agency approvals. As you know, that's always a condition of approval. So that includes the sewer authority and the federal agencies. Those resubmissions have been made and we're working through that progress or that procedure. We have review letters from Bowman and from Arrow, which is weird, I know. The county issued a review letter as well. We have no new waivers. So basically a lot of the comments are things that are pointed out in the approval. So everything's a will comply. We have no issue with any of the review comments. There is, as you remember, there was a recommendation that we put an area for a bus stop along 113. And that's really the only planning issue as far as I can see in the review letters. And we decided we're going to contact the school district to decide where they would like that, because we're not really sure exactly where to place it. They may want it on one side or the other. There's students that come down maybe on Cheswick, they may want, we don't know what they want. So we're gonna wait and have them dictate where that bus stop location will be. And then that will also dictate where the bus stop signs would be located. That was a comment in the Bowman letter. And so that we can wrap that up after we discuss that with the school district. But all the other comments we take no issue with. All will comply.
First thing, there is a note in our review letter about the grinder pumps.
Yes.
We resolve that with Lower Suffolk Township.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, we will.
And then Michelle, they just provide that to you. As long as it doesn't change the confines of the plan, they've come to agreement with the authority.
Correct. Correct. I'm sure it'll be part of their next plan submission, whether or not they submit these plans to the authority now for their review, or make plan revisions to address our comments and then submit to the authority. There will be no reporting of the plans until all those comments are addressed. Ours, Bowman's, Montgomery County Planning Commission, and the sewer authority insurance.
Questions or comments from? No. Got that or second.
I was looking through the plans I got the other day, and the turning radiuses for the fire truck. The example you used, vehicle, was not the correct one.
I was made aware of it. I spoke to Michelle Fountain this morning, and she gave me the right fire truck.
Okay.
And we have it already run, which works fine. So
Okay.
we can provide that in the next session.
Okay, and how about the other one with the emergency exit? We were talking about, you said they could.
We did provide a slow driveway profile or emergency access driveway profile on their plans, and it appears to be okay. But we'll
Okay.
take another look at it during their next plan review.
Sounds good, thank you.
Is there anybody from the public?
They're all here for something else.
So before we do that, I'm just gonna give a little bit of a reminder if everybody can bear with me for a second. First of all, if you have a question or a comment, name and address for the minutes. Second of all, I've got to meet some neighbors of mine through email over the last couple of days. I've tried to respond to each of them individually. As a matter of policy, we do not read emails at the meeting, so I've made that clear. Third thing is that, just a reminder for folks that have sat through this a bunch of times. Stormwater is governed by the state Department of Environmental Protection. So stormwater runoff is something that they govern, oversee, and regulate. So we defer to them on all matters. In terms of traffic on and off of 113, that's completely governed by PennDOT. We defer to them on all matters related to that. You heard me ask a question about sewer. That's handled by Lower Southwood Township Sewer Authority. So we defer to them on that. And then the last comment I'll just share with you is, by law, we are governed by the Municipal Planning Code of the state of Pennsylvania. This body is not allowed to impede development because we don't like it. We can govern it based on the underlying zoning and land development ordinance. So if your comment is that you don't want to see more development in the township, I completely appreciate that. That's a conversation with the supervisors, the planning commission members can't apply on that. So with that as a proviso, I'll open it up to whoever will have comments or questions. You look like you're ready to go.
I am ready.
All right.
My name is Heather Dagenet. I live at 391 Barclay Circle. So first, I'd like to state for the record, I do support development. I am grateful for my home. I used to live in a place that was a cornfield and now it's my house and I like it. Second, I'd like to appreciate the planning commission for addressing my concern about the loss of the mature trees on the site by calculating a fee in lieu. I feel like you heard that concern and you addressed it. I also appreciate the applicant for their additional plantings and Michelle Fountain's attention to detail in noting the landscaping is still, there's still some to be required. Shrubs to be planted along the off-site trail connection. And also I have a question on the site plan on the west, on the east end. There's a label that says 15-foot perimeter buffer, medium intensity. Are there supposed to be plantings over there? That's my question.
Sorry, can you repeat which location you're talking about, sir?
Yeah, on the east end of the property. I guess it's the north end of the property. There's a label that says 15-foot medium buffer. Are there supposed to be plantings there? Go mouse down a little bit more. Yeah, to the right. Yeah. It's very end.
Yeah, that's where the plantings are.
A little bit further that way. Yeah, are there supposed to be plantings there?
There are already existing trees, that's why it's not showing that. If you can see the aerial image, there are already existing trees. And we can, as you can see, there is a yellow line which is going through, those are the PPNL right of way. We cannot plant it within that.
Did you point out where that is? It's hard to see.
Yeah, right there.
All right, that answers my question, although I only see one existing tree there. I assume it's the gray one. That's fine.
I think what he's referring to is all the property, there's a dense planting of trees right there, so I don't think there was a request to plant additional trees, given the existing trees to the right of the property.
All right. Thank you for hearing that. See, I would also like to bring to the commission's attention several community comments that were not addressed from the previous meeting in January. Neighbors along the south and the west had questions about flooding. They want information about how a 100-year flood would be handled by the proposed stormwater design. That's an engineering question that has an engineering answer. And this, even though the authority to govern what the stormwater is, you said that's within the state, I feel like this is the right forum possibly for the engineers to explain how their design is the same or different than what would happen previous to the design. And if you guys have done your work well, the information that you provide could reassure the neighbors that your design will accommodate the 100-year storm.
It does.
It's the alphabet.
I agree with this, again, sorry for being abrupt. That was a point because we have already submitted the stormwater report that is designed to 100-year storm. PADP or MCCD or Montgomery County Conservation District would not have approved our design if that was not the case. Michelle's office has reviewed that as well. So we comply with 100-year requirements for the township as well as the lead.
So just, why don't you just remind everybody, is it surface retention basin, underground retention basin? Is it a series of releases? Like, just give us a general overview of how you're managing stormwater property at this time.
Sure, there are two, if we can go back to the rendering, please.
Sure.
Thank you. There are two infiltration basins which are shown on this plan that again, as it says, infiltration basin that has infiltration capability in the underground. So we have designed these basins to provide 100-year storm attenuation and meet the Pennsylvania DEP requirements of attenuation and volume control as well.
And are they linked basins as well?
They are not linked basins, they are separately discharging to the creek in the middle of the site.
Do you have, I know it's not a requirement, but I'm just curious, do you know what the flood elevation would be, like visually on the map at the 100-year storm?
I'm sorry, on what
If
location?
the 100-year storm happened, where would the water be located?
In the.
Like what contour lines would it touch?
Again, are you talking about the infiltration basins or are you talking about the?
Along the entire property, I assume
We
that when the-
certainly be within the property itself, it won't be coming to somebody else's property, if that's what your question is.
Are you asking what the elevation of the basins will be? And do you know that? Do you know from the bottom of the basin where the 100-year water surface elevation will be?
It's about 3.5 to 4 feet, again, I have to double check, but that's what it is.
Okay, 3.5 to 4 feet in each of the basins.
So it's contained within the basin? The 100-year storm is contained within the basin?
Yes, yeah, again,
Okay.
whatever is flowing to this from the site, it is contained in the basin. Are you talking about the creek itself? The creek will be contained within our property, if that's what your question is.
So let me try. to-
Okay, yeah,
So, they have to calculate a, storm and a rate of flow before the development is even there. And there is something, a rate of flow that we calculate in cubic feet per second. They have to tell us what that is at a certain point at that development, a point of interest, we call that. So they tell us what that is, and then after development, they do different drainage areas. They have a certain area of this development that is going into infiltration basin number 1. And a certain part of the development that is going into infiltration basin number 2. Those basins are designed to hold back the stormwater runoff to a rate that is when you combine those two basins, that is less than or equal to not only the 100-year storm, which only has a 1% chance of happening every year, but also, and maybe more importantly, the smaller storms. And they have to calculate those rates, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 25-year, 50-year. A 2-year storm happens much more often than a 100-year storm. So we are, like I said, almost more importantly, looking at those storms than the 100-year storm. And for each of those storms, they meet the requirements. And I know Manna said that the stormwater requirements are administered by the state. It's also Lower Southbrook Township that administers certain stormwater regulations also. Does that help?
yeah, thank you. Last question, to the applicant. The Pindi was previously filled out with incorrect information, and I was informed that a revised PIND was obtained. The PIND is previously identified a potential conflict with the Indiana bat habitat, which is an endangered species. The neighbors have seen bats in the area, but obviously we don't know what kinds of bats they are. Would you be willing to share a copy of the revised PIND at this meeting?
We do not have any of those submissions with us. I think you have access to them on,
I do not.
well, they've been resubmitted.
We can get them,
Okay.
I can get them to my meeting, guys, fine for them.
And so the other follow-up question I have is, was there an Indiana bat, habitat identified, and what paths to compliance with the Endangered Species Act are you planning on taking?
I can tell you that we are going to follow every federal regulation that we are subject to. That's my short answer. Yes.
Don't get you a copy of the report, so you're free to take a look at it and come back with anything that, you know, it's along, but I can't imagine it would have identified that species and then not require them to comply with the regulation.
Okay,
We
thank
won't get
you.
our permit otherwise, so.
So you'll get a copy to Mike, and Mike, you can access it to Mike, the township office,
I appreciate it.
okay? Sorry?
My name is Timur Karimov. I'm living on 590 Shakespeare Drive. Couple of questions which I probably missed on previous meetings still. So many times you told that PennDOT already reviewed the road change. All those letters with all information which was sent to PennDOT and request to review, are they include current condition or include proposing change with the walkable leader rock?
So I think the question is, since you're Stephanie this month, welcome. She owes you one. You know, what was the vintage of the counts, and did they also look at other things in proximity, like the walkable lead plan and stuff like that?
Yes, they are required to take into account other surrounding,
So the thing is that required and was taken. It's kind of different thing.
Required and have complied, yes. And we were issued our permit because we submitted what we were supposed to. It was
Okay.
Reviewed and approved.
Okay, so as many of you know, the proposed change on Harrisville Pike will significantly change the angle for upcoming traffic. Because right now, when you like stop on the lights on Landis Road, you basically see all the road till the intersection with Maple Drive. Then walkable redirect plan will came in reality. A new way will be with very like different angle, and whoever will drive off that property will not see any car which will came from a new way from Liderock, right? And there's like 20 seconds between these intersections.
So I can't speak to how PennDOT
Yeah,
operates the
yeah,
highway permit review. What I can tell you is I think both for our township
Okay.
reviews and through the state, traffic volumes, site triangles. I think proximity in terms of the other roads and access points, I think that's all taken into consideration, but that's really a question for
You
PennDOT.
see, there's almost no transparency on the process from public. I mean, what process on PennDOT review, and that's why there's still a lot of questions about that. That's why I asked that question about if that review include that change, because you see, based from public data, our township, get and spend about 600K on that, local redirect, change proposal, right?
On the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if in coming years, with that new development, all that review has to be redone, that's creates questions. So another question, based on that document, I found that specific Act 209 was created, which implement transportation impact fees. And the question is, if township collecting fees from the developer, specific for this developer to find the relocation for future relocation, if any relocations will be required.
So you're asking how much the traffic impact fees were and
Yeah.
where that'll get spent? Well, I think it's in the review letter, was what they.
38,324 dollars.
It's also included. Great. One more thing. Yeah, about stormwater, questions were already answered. Can you show that proposal form again? The question is, how much of the property will be open space?
Do the calculations, what percentage of it?
26%.
26%. Yeah, great. But can you like show where is?
You can see the green space on the plan,
Mhm.
and there is a trail from the cul-de-sac bowl along the back end of the property.
So
That leads to
basically-
the edge, that leads to the edge of the property. And then there is a trail connection at the edge of the property that will connect walkers to the township trail on the open space on the property next
Mhm.
door.
So basically, most of all open space is primarily storm reserve, basins, water course buffers, deadlands, and slopes, right? This is the land where you can't build anything. And rebranded it as a community. Right.
I'm not sure what the question is, so we worked with them to make sure that they concentrated all of it to maintain as much of contiguous green space as possible, and then with every development, we try to interconnect trails to create both walking and biking opportunities throughout the county.
Yeah.
So,
I remember there was a paper request for the trail. Is it
The way
still
it
on the
was-
table?
The location of the trail within the easement, not put the trail in, we have the trail.
and we also don't want the trail close to the creek, so I think we got the trail at the right spot, I don't know where else we would put it on there, so I just have. A bit where it needed to be.
So,
I'd like to move on if that's
Yeah.
okay.
I-
But
I
the
have-
questions around PennDOT, I mean, I'd ask you, I think that's a public document and you're free to ask them to get a copy of their permit.
that's
file.
unfortunately, they refused to provide.
They refuse to provide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm working on it, yeah. And I guess a couple more questions about impact on neighbor and impact on the owners of the well on property. That's up to, people who owns the wells.
Thank you. Yeah,
Allison Thompson, 512 Oakland Avenue. Kind of following from the trail that we're putting in on this property, and I was just, I'm curious, I mean, I don't know if anyone on the board or neighbors here probably heard in the last week and a half, we've had another accident on 113 right outside of Cheswick. It's regular ever since I moved here. I'm very busy, I'm not home all the time, there are a lot of accidents, I know that's a PennDOT issue, if they say it's safe. Great, but my concern is you do have the trail in, sounds lovely, great walking path, we're encouraging this as a community, but. I'm kind of curious who's going to assume liability when you're inviting people across the street at 113. At higher numbers, we already have people crossing. So, I mean, PennDOT doesn't want to do anything, but we're putting a trail in. We have kids crossing that want to go on that trail, so. Is there an owner in here that's gonna be liable for people coming across? Does the development have an HOA that would be liable? If there's an accident, we already have car accidents all the time, we have kids that already want to cross and now we're inviting more, so I don't know where the liability falls for that.
Yeah, I mean, PennDOT decided where to put the road, you know, there was a lot of questions amongst the planning commission at the onset of this as to where that road should go. They decided that putting it across Meeting House, and then they decided to have a pedestrian crossing there. But I hear your concern of people on, I'll call it the east side of Hardersville Pike accessing that trail. I think it's a great amenity to get that back into Oliver Park and other back into the village. I share your concern. I wouldn't cross 113 there either.
Maybe people cross the other way too to get into the smaller trail in the next development back behind us and now walk the Letterack, you have more reasons. We're designing something to encourage people to cross. I mean, I love the idea of a trail, but is that really a safe thing to encourage more people across the street there? Or, I mean, if PennDOT's letting us do this, that's fine. Are we as a community not adding a crosswalk? Can we not do anything? Because the way I see it, I mean, why are we putting the trail in then? Who's accepting, you know, that liability for those kids that, I mean, it's already an issue. I don't really understand as far as like an attractive nuisance. I don't think people want to stand and looking at your retention basins, but you do have a trail system that's certainly attractive and could fall into that. So is there an owner at the back end of the trail that would be liable? Is it, again, is it an HOA? I don't know.
Yeah,
Where
I
that
think it
would
would
fall.
be PennDOT, but Allison, the applicant didn't propose the crosswalk, right? That was a PennDOT stipulation, crosswalk there across 113.
I don't think there's a crosswalk.
There's nothing on the plan view.
That's the Underwater
But
store.
we also, as a community, we encourage the trail because now that's on all of us. That we want a trail, but are we not opening something
The
up?
point is, should we not put a trail there so as to not encourage people across 113? I would say, I think we try to put trails in wherever, and I think the folks in Cheswick will benefit from that, so. I don't think we would not put a trail so as to discourage people from crossing 113.
Then how do we make sure that they can safely do that? Because in the planning, I don't know that the applicant wants a trail or I want a trail, but I also don't want flattened children that I love dearly. And
Speed rates and whether there's a traffic light.
again, there was just another accident right there. You now have another left turn. Again, we want the trail, but
We're not gonna withdraw the trail, and we can't decide if PennDOT wants to put a light there. I frankly expected that they were gonna put a light in, and they haven't thus far, so that's really their call.
is there any, I mean, as far as the crosswalk, it's not on the plan to get across to me.
Yeah, that was my fault,
So-
it's a water, pipeline thing there, I apologize for that.
I don't know, that just kind of spells attractive nuisance to me, so again, is that the community that would pay for that? Or, because if we put the trail in and they're just giving egress or, if they're giving the right of way, are you installing, is the applicant installing the trail too, or?
We're installing the trail because we're required to install the trail. We have nothing to do with what happens on 113.
Right, but we're encouraging them to install trail, which we think is lovely, but the way that you get to that trail seems important.
If you want to ask the supervisors to waive the trail, I think as a matter of policy, we always encourage trails, because if 5 years from now, they put a traffic light in there, we can't come back and ask them to put the trail in, so I think we always have a bias towards that. But if your point to the supervisors is, don't have them put a trail in because we don't encourage people,
I'd like you to do it the right way. I would love to use that trail. I mean, I cross at Cheswick. I take my dogs across. We have kids that go across all the time. Just Halloween, we had groups of kids crossing and just generally throughout the year, adults, kids. I mean, again, it's very attractive what you're doing here, but there's gonna potentially be
leave that to the
costs.
supervisors, if they want to reverse policy on putting the trail in while we have the opportunity to speak, so.
For a crosswalk, but you know,
Well, I don't think we can require that. Hands. Bob.
Thanks. Bob Mangus, 509 Oakland Avenue, neighbor to Allison here. So maybe on the same line of thoughts. So understood everything that was just said, Manus, that, 113 is governed by PennDOT. The trail system is something that we want to have in the area. Is it the board of supervisors that we need to talk about? So one of the things I love about our community, it's really intrigued me to stay here all these years, is how when you have put in different developments that they interconnect with the trail system. Having lived in that house now for 27 years, I've been waiting for some way for us on that side of 113 to get integrated into the trail system. This seems like the perfect opportunity for that. However, as Allison was just stating, and as you know that intersection well, crossing that is life or death. So is there something that the township can do? And if it's not here at this meeting, I'm asking the question, where is it to go to look at how we can put something in, whether it be a crosswalk, whether it be flashing lights or otherwise, that allows that access to come across and then interconnects with the other community down below as well. That's one of the areas, and I don't look at the applicant to be responsible for that. This is, I think, more of a township kind of question that I'm asking.
No, I appreciate where both of you are going with this. So Michelle and Allison, PennDOT didn't, what's that? I'm sorry. Michelle. So PennDOT didn't require a traffic light. PennDOT didn't stipulate the crosswalk. Is the township in a position to petition for that, or can we add a crosswalk as a matter of township policy?
It would have to be approved by PennDOT because it's crossing the state road, which would require pedestrian study, including site distance that it would take into account traffic.
Michelle, wouldn't it also require a trail or a sidewalk on the opposite side also?
Yes, and when crossing requires a receiving ramp as well. So I don't believe there are receiving ramps.
So along your train of thought, Allison, is that I think the reason PennDOT didn't do the crosswalk is there's nothing to go across to on your side of 130.
Except everybody that walks there already, so.
So maybe as a point of argument, at 113 and 63, where the Exxon is, there's a handicap crosswalk that goes across 113 to that corner with the property up above. So that's acceptable, I guess, from a PennDOT perspective.
Well,
It's
I think
basically a crosswalk that goes to nowhere.
In anticipation of future walk.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So if we had something like that, a future walkway design, which there is none right now from a sidewalk.
And I don't know if you really want to add sidewalks to Meeting House Road.
But yeah, okay. Thank you.
For that, do you have that sidewalks to Meeting House Road, or do you just need that something to cross to?
A trail of some sort on the receiving end, I should think, right?
At a minimum of the ramp, but yes. Assistance.
So you can put a bicycle path, right, to like white line going down. Okay.
Hi, Lori Yamashita, 470 Wexford Circle. Just to add to Bob and Allison's comment, Bob, I went to the Board of Supervisors.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. You're a bike rider like me.
Yes.
I went to the Board of Supervisors working meeting, which is 7:30 in the morning. The next one is the Tuesday morning, and the regular Board of Supervisors meeting is in the evening. I voiced my concerns because I wasn't able to make the December Planning Commission meeting. My first comment is I believe there's still a number of outstanding issues and in the details in which I'm asking the Planning Commission to not move to make a vote today. In terms of safety, the thing I brought up to the Board of Supervisors meeting is the developer discussed how the changes on 113 were going to happen. And as I understand it, we're widening 113 towards the development side. And it was stated it was designed so that you can pass on the right side on the shoulder. And I was first surprised, thinking, I thought that's illegal. But number one, that widening of that road includes an 8-foot wide bike trail. So we know 45 miles an hour is 66 feet per second. People, if they can pass on the right, they don't slow down, at least they don't slow down very much. We've got an 8-foot wide bike trail. I brought that up, and I also said, we also have the school kids coming out. No, we read through the resolution, and within the resolution, it talks about placing a concrete pad on 113. It doesn't include, I didn't read anything about a structure, but that's the kind of detail I think is important. That drawing should be final. It should show a bike lane. Was that presented to PennDOT? No. Was a school bus station stop along that sidewalk on 113 on any drawing to PennDOT? No. So I asked Mr. Bergman, who's responsible? If you didn't give those drawings to PennDOT, how can PennDOT have the public safety in mind and make that final approval? So I think that's one major outstanding issue. And as we know, and Bob discussed it at another meeting, the passing on the left side at Meeting House, it's already a crazy intersection. We're going to make it more, and we are designing for people to stand and bike on that shoulder.
Well,
I have other comments, but I'll wait.
we're not gonna circle back, Lori, so.
Okay. Another outstanding item that I learned at the Board of Supervisors meeting is the Chapter 105 approval. It's DEP, it's for water and waterways. What was submitted to the DEP back in September of last year was a permit. It was opened up for public comments. And when I checked Monday, I believe they had more than 29 comments that came in from the public. The kinds of, I guess my biggest concern is the inconsistencies in that permit. I went through the list, but it includes the Pendy, the issue about the Pendy was not completed. The permit application didn't address the overall project. For one question on the environmental questionnaire is, will there be any trees removed? And it was no. They also some basic
We
things.
revised the Pendy. These are outside agency permits. We have to revise. It's just like a review comment here. If you miss something, you fix it and you resubmit. We've done that. I really don't want to discuss outside agency permits. They're a condition of approval. We have our preliminary approval. They are a condition. I don't want to go through every federal permit that is currently being reviewed.
I can understand your position, but I think how the permit was completed.
It was revised, so I mean, they probably went through 3 submissions, so. And if they did a bad job of reviewing it, I can't call them up and yell at them for it, so I'm not sure where you want.
Oh, it's under review. It was published in the Pennsylvania Bulletin in February.
Then if they're not granted approval.
They're not granted
If the
approval.
plan's not allowed to be finalized, like that will literally stop the process, so I will defer to that. So.
I understand you'll defer to them, but how they completed it, things. I'm here for safety, environmental, and also integrity or transparency. The inaccuracy on the permit was, have you informed the surrounding community prior to development?
Lord,
And
I apologize. They submitted it.
Mhm.
If the agency comes back and says, you did a bad job submitting it, they won't approve it or they'll ask, like, there's literally nothing this body can do of holding it up to say, we don't like the way you submitted it. We literally have to allow that process to follow through. Our hands really are tied.
Thank you for repeating that, Manus. I think there is something to say in terms of the transparency of the developer. The other item I brought up is, if I look at Arna Engineering's website, it says professional engineer for On and Bot. And if I look at the letterhead, it says professional engineer for On and Bot. And he is not a registered professional engineer in Pennsylvania. Is that illegal that he puts it there? No, but it's not transparent. If you've got an office in Doylestown, you're
Right.
doing work.
I have to object. This is so far outside planning commission review of final plan approval. And it's insulting. She said integrity and transparency, and it's unacceptable. I've never, ever heard someone talk like this at a planning commission meeting.
We're gonna move on.
If,
Move on. Next. Betty, now's your chance, or if you don't.
Yeah, well, that'll be my chance, all right. Betty Duddy from 483 Cheswick. If there's inaccuracies, just saying, Maris, if there's inaccuracies on the permit application, it should be addressed. One of them was, nobody was notified of this development coming, and it says it was notified to all the neighbors with a list, and nobody got notification. I think that's really important, whether it's integrity or it's not. It's important to know whether or not we should be knowing what is going on around our community.
Betty, you and I have been talking about this for a year and a half.
What's that? I'm saying, but they,
by certified mail. Were you
certified
notified?
mail, by certified mail. I found out from somebody coming down the road that heard it in the tax office. That's how I found out. But I wouldn't have known because it was all solicited privately. So all of this was under the blanket and I don't appreciate it. So integrity has nothing to do with it at this point.
What else you got?
I have. Okay, just a couple statements and then a little thing. This is from the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. It says land development shall be designed to promote, protect, and facilitate the public health, safety, and general welfare. The proposed layout of this development does not adequately protect the safety and welfare of existing residents due to the lack of buffering and direct access into private yards. I am speaking to raise serious concerns about the impact of the proposed cluster development on our existing neighborhood, particularly regarding safety, drainage, which I know has nothing now to do with anybody, and direct access to private properties. Based on the layout, it shows that your having all that water come from 113, but it's coming down the existing properties on their side, but still existing properties will be affected, and it stops at my corner and then turns to go towards Windsor, all the way down there, and then it reaches the basin. I know I've been assured by the township, there's nothing that could go wrong with all of that, by culverting all of that water. But I have to beg the difference. And I think that's a poor design. At the same time, the plan appears to provide little to no effective buffering or separation between the new development and existing backyards. This creates direct and uncontrolled access from the development into private yards, increasing the risk of trespass and safety concerns.
Betty, I'm gonna stop you because
Yes.
I'm a little frustrated.
Why,
I came out and walked that property.
you did,
We made sure we talked about where should the trees go.
We did.
Talked about whether there should be a fence,
and we did,
and
and then the fence got thrown away.
as we walked it through, the residents could not agree on what type of fence, so we moved on.
We
to
didn't
that
go,
lot.
no,
That
that's
I-
not true.
we talked about it multiple
You
times.
had asked me to get a petition for it, I did, I sent a
You
petition
said,
out.
did you want stockade, split rail?
Everything on it,
After
6
the
foot
applicant
privacy.
Eventually decided to move on. The fact that the property comes in next to yours doesn't mean unfettered access like that.
Yes, it does. You're not
That means anybody who builds next to you is therefore unfettered access, the properties are bought, like
What-
that's just the nature of the.
The major problem is you're putting a 8 foot walking trail in my backyard. That's gonna be public access right there.
And
Then
if
move
you're
the-
against the
move the
trails, you should voice that to the supervisors who have encouraged us as the planning commission. To put trails in everywhere we can, which I think over time has been a positive to the township.
Can we move the trail further in? Why do I have to go to the board for that? It's a design issue.
it is a design issue, and I think we put it in the right place for the overall benefit of that development in the community, so.
But Cheswick is not,
Betty.
but Cheswick isn't gonna use that walking path. Nobody's
That's,
using it over.
that's your call. So,
Cheswick already has a walking path, there's sidewalks that lead to all the park, so there's no reason for people in Cheswick to go out to 113 to turn and go into the new development.
from a planning standpoint, I think we always try to have interconnecting trails in every development. And I think we try to place it in that development in the appropriate spot. I think we got this one right based on that. If the community decides they don't want a trail interconnecting this development, I think that's a perfectly valid point to raise to the supervisors. As a planning commission, we're always going to try to put trails in where appropriate.
Can you recommend that it gets
I'm gonna move
moved or
on.
no? No?
Anybody
Okay.
else?
I should say that it's already approved. It's in our approval where it's located. So I don't see that being moved. Yeah.
They'll put it there on the place. I'll give the Duddies one more.
Piggyback on that, just the fence situation. Last meeting, we went back and forth on what type of fence they were gonna put up, where it was gonna be. I believe the consensus or their opinion was leave the existing fence and put another fence in front of it. I don't know how much in front of it, a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet? Who maintains the old fence? Does that fence now become the property of Cheswick and Windsor? People, do we have to maintain the existing fence that's falling apart?
I think which property is it on? I think we decided to just remove since it was not in good shape. First, but we.
Decided to put a new fence in front of the old fence. There's done fence. Because it was all haphazard.
So there's a fence currently. Does that fence now become our responsibility as property owners in Cheswick to maintain that fence that they're gonna leave there? Because they're putting a new one 2 feet in? Who's, where that fence would fall there?
Homeowners or do you want to just remove it?
We don't have any plans to maintain that fence. On the other side. We're putting a new fence up that we said that we would maintain,
If-
and the property owners may connect to it, that's what we said. Because all the connection points would be different and we would be met, we would have, there's no way we could coordinate with all those property owners.
But we would have to take the old fence down at our expense to connect to the new fence.
Well,
Or
I
not,
think it'll be up to
because
each property, and some may just choose to keep it and connect to it, others may choose to remove it, it's completely up to. each
And then the
property.
space between this fence, whether it be a foot, 10 feet, I don't know how far they're planning to, because that never was discussed. Never
That
showed up.
one, the homeowner, okay.
That-
Up to the property line, yeah.
Right up against the fence.
Up
So
to
you
the
can have a
property.
fence, you can have a fence
So it's
against the
on your
fence.
property, you can take it down or you can keep it and you'll be the one responsible about
To mow that area in between the two fences.
it, up to your property.
So the fence that's there currently, if it starts falling down, who takes care of that? It's because it's falling down now.
You're free to remove it, it'll be on your, if it's on your property, you can do whatever you.
It's not. It's on there. It's their property. It's not our fence. Are we allowed to take it down? We got permission. Disturb a fence that's on their property?
Is it? I'll defer to the solicitor,
What's that? I'm sorry.
that's the lawyer for the township.
I just want to make sure before a fence goes up in front of a fence, and if there's a gap between it, who maintains that property? I mean,
I think I got one more question back, ma'am.
Darlene Boyle, 487 Cheswick. Mine kind of takes off after Alan's. The fence, especially in our backyard, we're next to the Tavernas and the Duddies, is, I can't even call it a fence. But there's a tree that fell, which the neighbor refused to take care of. So we had to cut everything on our side, on his side. But the stump, I mean, it's like this, it's on the fence and it's out protruding. So you're telling me that I have to take care of that fence and get rid of the stump that came from the tree from the neighbor who just never did anything about it?
The farm property?
Yes, because
Take a look.
again, the fence,
Okay.
the
Yeah, I
fence
was gonna
is
say, let's take a look and
Durstein's.
see what they can do to help remove.
Yeah, because the fence is Durstein's. You know, and so if, here's the fence, this is my yard, here's this stump, like right here.
So the applicant said she has your name and address and they said they'd be happy to take a look at it.
Could you give me the number? It's on.
487. And it also goes into,
I don't know when that fell or what, but we'll look.
Okay.
it also goes into his yard, which is 491. I mean, we did,
We'll investigate.
All right, so I'm gonna ask
I think
for.
we have more comments.
we're not gonna stay here all night, so I'll give you one more question.
One question.
One.
Can I see a show of hands? How many people are here about this development? Either from Cheswick or surrounding properties? That's not my one question though, is it? First of all, I want to thank you for those like you on the planning commission for the opportunity to ask questions and to express my concerns about this development.
We get your name and address.
I'm sorry.
Your
I
name
did.
and address?
Yes, I will. Eileen David, Davide. The address is 471 Wexford Circle, WEX, in Harts. Okay. I'm wondering, is it so that during the construction, JP Orleans owns the entire property? Is that so? That, okay. I saw a shook head. Okay.
Yeah, we will, once we have the approved,
Yeah.
yes.
Who does the property belong to once all of the construction is completed?
Eventually, who will it own? I don't know the answer to that.
Who would take responsibility for issues on the property once the construction is
Well,
complete?
the homes will be sold and there'll be a homeowners association.
Okay. And if they're, I don't know, are they responsible for the entire 9-acre land?
The open space in the streets will be maintained by the homeowners association.
Okay, okay. And if we're concerned about the storm drain that was put in, if we're concerned that it's backing up or clogged because of increased flooding in our properties, who would we call about that?
Well, after it's constructed, there's an 18-month maintenance period. And
Yeah.
there's an escrow that's posted with the township. And Michelle will be examining the basin and making sure that it's operating
During
properly.
construction, yeah.
During construction, and then when construction is done for an additional 18 months.
Correct.
Beyond that?
Yeah.
And then beyond that, so I live next to Salford Lake, they put stormwater controls
Is
in.
that the easement that you referred to?
And yeah, so when those clog,
Yeah.
I call the township calls the homeowners association, the homeowners sends out their contractor and they clear the block.
Thank you for explaining. It's exactly what I need to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't see any indication on the map about the relative to the bus shelter. I remember the prior meeting, we discussed it and it was agreed to that a bus shelter would be constructed.
Not a
Just
shelter.
a minute, just a minute.
Never said
It was a shelter that was agreed to during the meeting, and I'm encouraged to hear that you're bringing in the Lower Southford school district, because I think they're the ones who would know. But I was very concerned to have the meeting, hear at the meeting that it was, shelter was agreed to, and then to find out on future paperwork that it was just gonna be a concrete slab. And that's totally inappropriate.
That's exactly what it was always. We never said shelter. We said a bus area.
A bus shelter was said, and you guys agreed to it.
It's not in the approval. It's not what we said. It might be what you thought of when we talked about it, but we said we would make a concrete area for the children to have a safe place to wait for the bus.
That's not a safe place to wait for the bus.
Oh, okay.
In that area, and I keep pointing to here, which is not, the map's not there, but where private road A comes out and meets 113. I understand about the 8-foot area reserved for a bike lane. I understand there are a lot of questions about how the traffic is going to be turning right. Will there be a right turn lane so that people can bypass any people turning off of the meeting house? There's a lot going on in that area. The bike lane, the right lane. Then you have snow and you have snow, well, this winter, right? A lot of snow piled up there. And then you have kids who, the kids. They're gonna be standing out on 113 with cars whizzing by 50 miles per hour. I don't know anybody who would want their kids standing on 113 waiting for a bus when they're being pushed into 113 because of the snow and because of all the other things around here that have not been addressed. I'm very concerned about it. I think a transparent bus shelter needs to be erected somewhere on private road A, so that children can be within that area, kept within that area, protected so that no one can be up to no good out there. And then the bus can come along, and I understand you didn't allow for space for a bus to be able to enter that private road. But if it can come along and then the kids can leave the bus shelter and enter the bus, far off of 113th. They need a buffer of space between that 55-mile-an-hour traffic and those little ones waiting for to get to school.
David, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be voice that to the supervisors. They can then decide if they want to make that a condition or if
Okay.
they want to send a letter to the school district.
Okay,
But I don't disagree that the bus pad should probably be set back on road A, let the bus pull up and then the kids will walk out to it, so.
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, it's exactly what that's exactly what I was thinking. Thank you. Thank you.
And now we really are down to the last one, right?
Very close, very close. Let's see. I'm getting it. I'm still not seeing the 6-foot privacy fence along the perimeter properties, which has been referenced by a number of people. And I understand from the last meeting in January that a split rail fence was talked about being erected along the property, closer to where the perimeter between Cheswick property and the proposed development. I agree, I have to agree with the Duddies. There's nothing to stop people from going from a split rail fence. What's the point? That's a waste of time and money. Put up a 6-foot perimeter fence, everyone would be happy. They wouldn't have troubles with privacy or lights coming into their property, and they also wouldn't have other people wandering into their yards. I don't know what the big deal is about putting up a 6-foot privacy fence, which would satisfy so many concerns. About the filtration basins, the filtration basins. Does anyone here really think that a split rail fence will be adequate protection to keep children from those infiltration basins? What's the point? What's the point of a split rail fence? I'm sorry. Maybe, is it gonna be a wire mesh, like 6-foot high wire mesh against the split rail or something?
It would be a wire mesh along the split rail. The split rail is only 48 inch high, so 4 feet high.
48 inch high.
Yeah.
Okay, would the wire mesh also be along the split rail? Along the perimeter properties?
Yeah. We are.
The wire mesh with the split rail?
No, you guys don't.
No. You're not sure.
Yes, with mesh.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
2-rail split rail wood fence with mesh.
With mesh on the perimeter?
It's in the approval along the boundary. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, what did you say about?
Yes, with mesh.
With mesh, okay. And
There you go.
again, just one little comment. I'm wondering how this proposed development is ready to go forward with all these unresolved issues. And wouldn't the township be better off using this as open space? Say thank you for your patience.
I do want to say thank you, Madison, and I've written to you guys, I appreciate your work. I want everyone to know that you're a volunteer committee too. And there's an extreme amount of work, the volume that we have, and as I said before, all the skills you do, so I appreciate you guys more at each meeting. I also feel there's a lot of open issues. I don't understand the rush for final approval at this point.
And I gather that from the crowd, so let me just explain. So at this point in the process, as we've resolved the design and planning issues, there's always usually an open list of technical issues. That's why the applicants say will comply. So as the township engineer has stipulated, here's the things that we want to resolve. The applicant saying, we acknowledge what you're saying in your letter and we will comply with that. And then there's outstanding third-party approvals that still have to come in. The plan can't get finalized until those approvals are received. So us moving it forward, if that's what the members decide tonight, is always stipulated upon satisfaction of the technical review letter and the third-party approvals. So just so everybody understands. So with that, I will ask if there's anybody interested in making a motion for final approval.
I move that you're going to final approval plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Scott? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, abstained. So 6 and
Thank you.
Mike, when will this be in front of supervisors?
So this should be in front of the board of supervisors
in May. So, because we need time to prepare the information for.
But it will be publicly advertised. It's the agenda. The agenda. Yeah, yes, yeah. Yeah, so it'll be put on the agenda, which will get posted on the website that they're ready to go forward. Okay. All right. Steve, good.
Thank you.
So,
Nice to see you. Have a good night.
5:31 minutes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for everybody's input, appreciate it.
Maybe, but at least you have to say that. Yep. That's what he feels, doesn't it? Thank you. You too.
I know. That's what he's talking about. Folks, if you don't mind, we're going to lose the next item. Thank you.
Except for the houses.
Ordinance. I'm sorry. Something. Space. So it doesn't.
Okay. Hello. Rick Mast, registered engineer in the Commonwealth.
Are you sure?
I am sure. Clemens Mill, similarly, we hashed out lots of issues. And left discussed tonight are two issues. You know, one is a possible additional waiver and the other is a possible argument. So let me discuss the waiver first. The path we reviewed pretty thoroughly over the years. In particular, where it at the bottom of the page, it makes a left-hand turn, goes along the creek, turns right, and then it crosses the creek at an existing culvert. And the Bowman letter states that the ordinance says it shall conform to ASHTO standards for bicycle facilities, which the ordinance does say that, and it even said that back when the application was filed. I think the ASHTO standards have changed over the years, so it would have complied when the plan was submitted. So I don't think it technically needs a waiver, but if the consensus is it needs a waiver just to cover the basis, we would request the waiver. The current standard is 60-foot radius. That's double what is there today. It really doesn't work. It would interfere with the basin that's there. Where it goes towards Pioneer Circle, you couldn't even fit a 60-foot radius in there. That's fairly large, actually, for a path. So one of the things we worked through, and it's really with Bowman, is we widened the trail to 10 to 12 feet where it goes around the turn. And that was exactly to just, to resolve any configuration issues that were there. So I feel like we've resolved the configuration. I don't think Bowman is saying they have an issue with the configuration. We're just pointing out that today's standard is 60 feet. So the only issue is whether we need a waiver or not. I would say to the planning commission, if it's determined we need a waiver, we would add that to our request.
I think we'd always be better off if you did, because.
Okay.
We've looked at this plan for so long, as we grandfather basement and start date of the conversation, and it would be so far back. Let's just put through the waiver.
Okay, so that's the one I do. And I think that's it from Bowman. And from Michelle's letter, and you'll recall me making some comments about the architecture. And in particular, there is an ordinance in when we submitted, read it to you, and there's one word that's really important. New buildings abutting the retained buildings shall reflect their respective characters to the greatest extent practical. That's the ordinance. And from that, we have several comments about architecture. And this is for proposals with existing building. And I said, with the comments that are in Michelle's letter, very detailed about the window design, the door design. None of those standards are in that ordinance, first of all. And second is, I don't think it applies at all, because the ordinance says abutting. When you're abutting an existing building, that means connected. So if you have a building that you're building onto, like a twin, and you're building the other half of the twin, it does make sense that they would be the same. When you're building a building nearby, the word isn't abutting, it's adjacent, it's next to something else, but abutting means connected. That's the meaning of the word. So I think in this particular case, wish I would have seen this before. I don't think it applies at all. So that's.
So I think Michelle asked, I think I agree. She was asking for brick facades, right, to match the brick facades on some town public.
So I did an inventory of the whole block from 113 to Maple. And show you what I found here. So, and then only on our side of the street. There are 17 buildings on our side of the street between that intersection. There's 7 brick buildings. 2 of them are on this tract. There's 5 stucco or stone buildings, and there's 5 buildings with siding. So it's not brick. There's buildings of all sorts. In fact, the building on the tract next to us is stone. And that would be the Garrish office. The building directly across the street from us is stucco. And I will tell you that the developer does not want to use brick. That's why I'm making that statement. They don't feel brick is really markets that well anymore. People don't want brick. They want stone, or they want siding. So that's the main concern with brick. If you look at the 2 buildings on our tract, they are both brick, but one is like a very Victorian, almost Gothic Victorian looking building. And the other is kind of a typical Cape Cod, I would say, from the 40s, late 40s. So those 2 buildings, brick is about the only thing they have in common. Other than that, they're completely different architecture. Well, I'm proposing that we're going to build residential buildings in character with what's there, which is a typical building with stone. You mean, what is the architectural material? Stone. We would rather use stone.
But you have an architectural rendering?
We did renderings that show stone.
Style, is it?
They're from 2007.
They are.
Right? You haven't updated them since
No,
then?
we have not.
Have you updated them, so you haven't revised them at all, even to answer some of our questions?
I haven't, because I don't know that any of those apply. Oh, there they are. So those are the ones that are along Main Street. So you can see the porch. So we do have architectural treatments. There's a porch. That would be what faces Main Street, but the masonry on the bottom half would be stone, not brick. So it's definitely a residential character building. And I think it does fit in with the area. It just isn't brick. That's the primary difference, I think, in terms of material. But I guess my main point is too, and the porch, I believe is required by zoning, so we can't eliminate the porch. But the architectural standards aren't really, in my opinion, they're not really requirements in the ordinance.
What am I, this is just a question to the planning commission. What am I missing by looking at this and thinking it seems fine to me? If there's objections to it, what are they, just so I understand?
Yeah, I think that's why we put together the village standards to try to say, you know, so in this case, he's got dormer windows, breaking the roof line. I think that's consistent with other that are along there. There's a front porch. You can't tell if you have a balustrade or not.
There is.
Columns there. You know, so I think like this is what 531 looks like. Now, obviously, you're not gonna build that, but we want to try to get it so that it looks like keeping with the character of the surrounding home, as opposed to somebody drops in a temporary or, you know.
And across from East, we have that kind of situation, who's somebody built an apartment building there in probably the 70s.
Right.
That just doesn't fit the character at all.
Right.
I would say these are similar to the one in Burnfield. I don't know why I can't think of the name right now. Right on Main Street. What's it called?
Crisis Corner.
That is that doesn't sound like it. Yeah, the ones that are pretty low.
Covenant.
Yeah, Covenant Lane. I'm still thinking that's not the name of the development. You would know better than me.
Well, I mean, I think Michelle did her job correctly and mentioned that this is what the ordinance says. And then if we're willing to moderate that, or we're suggesting supervisor, so it's something like, I mean, we can say that, so. Michelle didn't do what she was supposed to do.
I'm not saying that either.
Just to be clear.
Well, so let's pull the string a little bit. Is that vinyl siding above or hardy board?
Fine.
So you see the slippery slope, like we started with brick and gingerbreading, and then we end up with stone and vinyl siding. And suddenly you're starting to look very different in character.
Different from what's there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to, you know, I'm looking at what 531 looks like, and I'm trying to see if I can then look at some surrounding.
It's stone.
Yeah.
That's the builders.
That's the character.
The General Harris building.
And it's all, what is that?
So,
Definitely.
Yeah, this isn't too old, that Harris building.
No,
we don't want that.
So,
and then what's the other way? The other way is right as well.
That one out. But it's brick, but it's much more modern, of course, than the Victorian.
You assume around there is across the street.
That is nice.
More normal.
That's old form.
That's it, yeah.
But at least that has a similar.
But it's got a porch, it's got, this is a wider dormer.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I was going, you don't want something that looks like it'd be a housing development. That's not what this is. But I don't know that everything has to look like completely the same. I do agree about character. Which could be.
That's a fine one.
Yeah.
What that, I agree with you though.
I think they could all be different, which one? All different architecture.
well, there will be two, the ones on Main Street will be different because of the, you know, they won't have any garage in the front. There'll be a garage in the back, on the front porch, so they actually will be different. The ones in the back are more conventional.
Use. Anybody else on
I think they look fine.
I honestly was leaning towards Michelle's direction originally. I was. With the brick. But with Rick's inventory. It swung me a little. I guess I'd be okay if it was stone. Not a huge fan. By the argument that we buy brick homes.
Yeah, I mean, High Point is the one that was just built, their stone. Right, that's, that's the one across from the post office, right, the Jacobs Woods, I couldn't, Jacobs Crossing. I took a picture of that, I'm not even sure what they are.
I think they're brick actually, a brown
It's
brick.
like it's a stone. Kind of looking.
It almost looks like a Park Place.
But they're a different look entirely, they're a more modern.
But that's certainly would fit.
No, I don't think it would either, but I'm just looking at materials and.
Homestead Farm on Main Street, the applicants and the party board on those.
I can, here's what I would request that you, if that's the planning commission's desire, include that in the recommendation. I'll go back to them, and maybe that's a good compromise for the ones on Main Street. If he doesn't have to do brick, so that may be a reasonable compromise.
I think that's a good compromise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the avoid fight.
I was hoping that's the one he was arguing.
That's the argument.
Oh,
I thought it was a person.
No, the first one was, I think we hashed sorry, I just about tripped over my shoelace. I think we hashed the path to death to get to this point, so I think it's more a matter of technicalities that we've had, so we will request the additional waiver. Everything else in the letters, I would say, is will comply. We are seeking our outside permits, which we did have at one time, but we've got to re-up them all because they mostly. I did send you something today. I didn't expect you to look at it today. Okay, yeah, I didn't expect you to look at it, but
I got a question, the path that the culvert that the path goes over, is that just a metal? What is it, concrete? I think they were.
no, today it's a bridge structure that was there for the farmhouse that's in Pioneer Circle used to access from Main Street. So it's actually the driveway that used to serve that
That's a bridge.
farmhouse is still there. It's a concrete bridge structure. So when the township passed preliminary approval for the project, the path is discussed somewhat in detail. And in there, we're supposed to work with the Public Works Department to find an acceptable location. If it's not there, we may want to relocate that crossing. It's what the resolution says. So.
But it'll be maintained as a bridge?
Today, it is when I say bridge, it's a culvert.
Right, but there's no.
It's not a
going
pipe.
through there. It's not a pipe.
It's a concrete structure.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it is today.
Sir, do you have a question?
I was confused on the plot plan. Are some of the homes the first line or there's a line of homes that faces Main Street?
Yes.
Let me just get your name and address.
I'm sorry. My name is John Mertz. I live at 225 Kingfisher. That was one question.
So yeah, so we've looked at this plan for years. I think my kids might have been in school when we started looking at this. So that's Main Street on the left-hand side of the plan, and some of those buildings are facing onto Main Street.
Oh, so they're gonna stay.
Yes.
Well, some of them are new, though, right?
Two are existing, two are new.
Oh.
Yes.
And we worked with the applicant to make sure that the spacing in between and the setback is consistent with the other homes that are on Main Street. And then behind that, you see there's other homes that then face down the bank and they're all new there.
Okay. And then it comes out to Maple?
No.
No, Main.
It actually has a cut through to the Garris office building apartment.
Correct. There's a connection right there to the driveway next door.
Okay. Thank you.
And briefly with that, it's very minor, and it may have been addressed elsewhere. We had a comment in here about the guardrail along the main street, and if you go to the top of the page, like where the road curves down into the development, the guardrail doesn't really follow the same curve, and on the landscaping plan, you see 2 trees planted behind that. And we just noted that might be a little bit difficult for maintenance in a way. Consider.
So I did see your comment. Sorry, I didn't even skip your comments, Claire, but yeah, I don't think I can change the guy. Because I believe it has to move away from the curb to meet guide rail requirements at work. So that was Stephanie, it actually used to follow the curb. But yeah, she and also had comments on that, so I don't think I have flexibility.
I just put that correct. Just either removing the tree or some planting made around it that would require a little bit of like the thing to.
One thing we did change through the whole review is we created a flat area behind the curb though, just
Yeah.
to help that, so.
Right, from that, there's the homeowners association.
Yes, everything, even the road.
Yeah. Anything else is open one? Any other questions?
Nope.
Motion to move this one.
Make the motion.
I'll say so.
Thank you.
No, you weren't that aggressive the first.
Motion.
Everybody wants it, man.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstention?
All right, thank you.
We'll close.
I can retire.
110 Castle Road sketch.
Hello, let me introduce myself. I'm Kelly McGowan. How are you all?
Good, Ellen.
Nice to see you again. Good, good. Whenever you are ready.
Actually, if you don't mind, my vision.
I would love you to, please. Yep.
So what you're gonna hear tonight, is, possible a sketch plan for potential development. On a parcel that's, an existing farm, was it 2 farms?
2 farms.
2 farms, on Castle Road. We've seen numerous, potential applicants come in with various ideas, to develop this site. This applicant came to the building committee to get feedback from a combination of Julie and I and some supervisors and staff about, and just as all the other applicants done as to what might occur here. And, you know, what we've talked through with them is a real desire to maintain some of the rural character in that area. We've also asked them to meet extensively with the neighbors around it, to flush some of this out. And then we said, let's get it in front of you guys to get a reaction as to what you folks say, because there's a couple different ways we could go on this parcel. It right now is, I believe, R1A. So it could be large lot, single family. And there's pros and cons to that. They have an alternate plan that we've talked through, but wanted to get everyone's feedback as to whether or not that makes sense. So still in an early stage, I think we've talked through some of the issues. They have been released and they'll take it through where they think they want to go. Right.
Yeah, please. Thank you very much, Kelly McGowan. Thank you for that. And Nancy, I think you're exactly right. There is a background here. John Rathbon from Fox Lane Homes is here. John started with this endeavor about a year ago. So I think what probably makes the most sense is if John can take you first through kind of the thought process, the progression, and including that meeting with the neighbors. And I think it was actually a couple meetings with the planning committee and to get us in front of you tonight. Thank you, John.
So John Rathbon of Fox Lane Homes. Thank you, Manus, for the introduction and the Mike, if you don't mind. So we started this process about a year ago. Obviously, some of you might recognize our phases from previous developments in the township. Learned a lot from those developments. We decided, and all of our communities moving forward, we take a different approach. Need to find a plan that works for the township, the sellers, the neighbors, and also Fox Lane Homes. So we started this process pretty slowly. Started putting some sketch plans together, started with the by right plan, as Manus had mentioned, from some large lot singles. Also put some other concept plans together, starting with around 160 units. What we're proposing is a change from the large lot singles to an active adult community here. Went through several iterations, went through the building and zoning committee twice, sent out over 100 letters to all the surrounding neighbors, had a neighbor meeting here at the township. Decent attendance. We had about 20 people in attendance, probably about 14 households. Had a lot of good comments from that, had a lot of good comments from township staff, had a lot of good comments from the building and zoning committee. Had follow-up subsequent meetings with some of the neighbors on Roberts Road. During the meeting with the neighbors, they had mentioned a lot of, their concerns from stormwater to buffering, things of that neighbor. So we actually went out and met with them. Had lunch with another neighbor, really tried to get the lay of the land and what everybody would see here. I know this property's been through a lot of iterations. There was, and I actually had Steve Moyer in the back, who's actually the seller of the property. He wanted to hear from him tonight. He knows a little bit more about the history, but I know there's been several, large warehouse proposed on it and some other, assisted living community and other uses. So really try to find a project that would work for everyone here. After all of that, we came up with this plan. Started about 160 units, went down to 122, down to 110 units. And what you see here is a mixed product community for an active adult product, so 55 and older. There's 27 singles, 34 twins, and 49 carriages. What you see here is we took a lot of the comments that we got, and what was really important to the township staff and also the neighbors was view shed and buffering. So you see we've sort of clustered all the units to the center of the property, keeping the view shed along the frets as far back as possible, keeping the view shed on Skipback Creek Road as far back as possible. Castle Road, we used to have units that backed right up to Castle, then we had units that were on the side to Castle. Those have all been pulled off here. We did have an emergency access and an access also out on Roberts Road. Really looked at that road. Township staff said that probably wasn't the best idea, and we agreed that that wasn't. Originally, we had some units on frets there in the open space triangle there. Took those off just because of access points, safety, things of that nature. Some of the other comments were, the intersection at Frets and Castle and the guardrail that has never not been hit. We're proposing to realign that. Obviously, we'd have to work through PennDOT with that. 2 entrances on Castle, we've centered them on the property away from Frets, that intersection, more towards where the dirt mounds from the turnpike are. So they're, not affecting a lot of other neighbors. And put a whole trail system through there. What this also allowed us to do was protect a lot of the environmentally sensitive areas. A lot of the existing trees are staying. It is a farm, so there's not too many existing trees, but all the big pockets of the green are all the existing trees that will be staying. We have an extensive trail system through the community. We have it on Castle in lieu of a sidewalk. And then we also, one thing we're not showing here is potentially getting across Skipback Creek to Skipback Creek Road. Was a desire of township staff as well. We have a whole host of other comments that we need to implement. I know overflow parking, some, I don't know what list here. The overflow parking, footprint ownership on the singles versus lotting it out. The bridge over Skipback Creek Road, and some other surrounding infrastructure improvements. So tonight we're here we're not asking for a vote or anything of that nature. We are here to get feedback. We're also here to get feedback on if the planning commission finds this to be an acceptable use for the property. Feedback on the process for the zoning moving forward. We do have a zoning text amendment that has been sent to the solicitor. Kelly can go into more detail about that. It utilizes the existing LPOD overlay district to add an age qualified use into it. And you'll see this plan mirrors a lot of the characteristics of the LPOD. We have, 40 acres of open space, which is about 59% open space. And so there's a lot of other features in there that we can tie into that from area and dimensional requirements as well. So like I said, tonight we're just here for feedback and potential, feedback on the zoning text amendment or anything else that the planning commission would like to weigh in on.
We're talking about the units.
Sure.
Just want to go over that, so. All right, so 110 altogether.
Yes.
And if you plan to put that before the R1A zoning, traditional, acreage units for those.
So the R1A zoning is 80,000 square feet per lot, so just a little under 2 acres. It's anywhere from 25 to 37, depending on how you lay it out. We ran everything when we were comparing the by right use to the active adult use. We ran everything at 25. So when we compare school age children, traffic, taxes, impervious, everything, we ran it at 25, which is probably the best case for the by right use. And that we really think that this, other than traffic, this has less impact than the R1A use at 25 homes. And traffic is only one extra trip every 3 minutes. During the peak hours.
That's a lot more units.
This,
This, I didn't fence. It's not a minor. Okay.
So we looked at that, and just to give you some context, because that's kind of where we started when we went into your ordinance to see how this fits in and how the concept would work within your ordinance. And one of the things we looked at was density. So going to your highest densities, R5 high, R4, mid-high. R5 is, once you put density bonuses and things like that, your townhouses can go up to 8 to the acre. You start at 4 to the acre, so that is high density. Your R4, your kind of medium density, you start at 3 is your base, 3 units per acre. You have density bonuses, you could tick up to 4. This, what we're showing here, is just under 2. So it's kind of that middle range where you get the cluster, you get the, what you can consider a density bonus with a cluster with your open space, but you're still not coming close to what your ordinance foresees in terms of a high density development. That was our intent.
we looked at the impacts too, and when you compare the uses and a lot of, the common items that come up is open space, traffic, school age children, taxes. And if you look at open space, we're 40 acres of open space versus a by right R1A technically doesn't require any. You could have houses lined up all the way along, driveways on Castle, driveways on Frets. When you look at taxes, the net impact to the school district and township on an annual basis for the taxes of the R1A is about 400,000, where this is almost 1.2 million. The school age children, since we're proposing age restricted 0 versus 19 for 25 houses, which might be on the low side, but that's that's the national studies require you to count. The traffic, like I said, it's 1 extra trip every 3 minutes in the peak hour, so I don't think that's really an impact, but that's the only intensity that's higher than the base density. And then impervious is very similar, building coverage is very similar as well.
Curious. I can't tell exactly what the topology is. But from French Road, under the bottom corner here. Looking up to these, looking down to these, I think you're still looking down to those. It's hard to tell.
It's a little deceiving, it goes down and then back up, yeah, because there's a
Creek or whatever,
yeah,
dry creek or whatever that is.
I don't know if it's a main creek, but it's not a creek, but this is, a water course that comes through
Right.
here, so it goes down and then it goes back up.
So do you think that's equivalent? Because it doesn't seem with it from the top.
It's not, you have a high nub in the property that you see where it says open space up there, this is pretty high up. This is probably sits a little lower, but then it sort of flattens out as you go down.
It's 55 and over, so this wouldn't have a walkout base either, or would it walk out actually?
I don't think it would, we haven't done that much grading analysis on it yet, but it might be a daylight
Right.
basement.
Okay.
This is an age restricted community. Is there gonna be a swimming pool on it?
So currently we have a small clubhouse and some pickleball courts proposed. We haven't finalized the amenities with, obviously the amenities with the balance of an HOA and keeping the fees down for the homeowners. We haven't finalized the amenities, but we are proposing some small amenities there, pickleball courts and clubhouse.
Size of the clubhouse. And the pickleball is bigger than the size of the clubhouse. So if you're gonna make it a restricted, age restricted community, wouldn't you wanna try to keep the people in there as much as possible?
Yeah, and as we go through it, and great comments, we'll refine the amenity area to make sure it fits the size of the community.
Yeah, it does seem, when it's looking at it, it does seem like based on, because that tree line and the way it goes, like, doesn't look like you're gonna see that much from Fred. You'll see some,
Yeah.
but because that tree line is gonna stay, so it's going all the way across.
We're looking at Mr. Moyer's farmhouse or barn. You can barely see that from Fred's Road.
Yeah, and
And that's the high point on top.
It
Closest
is,
to the top.
and if you wouldn't mind going back to the farmhouse is right about here.
Yeah, okay.
The driveway you can actually see it's a dash line under the road.
Okay.
So it's about the same, the first driveway is the first entry point.
The overall design is, the things I like about the overall design is certainly the preservation of the existing, mature trees. And of course, that's something we want to see in the trail, looks great. I would like to see the trail loop the property. So you could do like perimeter loop, you know, I know you have
I like
back in the woods, is nice.
Yeah,
Especially if they're in older community, and they just want to stay on their, on the site. I think that in terms of the fact that, you know, the rest of us in the township not living here, the open space along the roads is great, except I don't think it's good in the top corner. I think it's great along Fritz and, you know, that.
Castle.
that's Skip Back Creek Road on the right,
Yeah.
Fritz is on the bottom.
I think it's really good. I think that the unit lots up in the northwest corner. You don't have that there, that's a little too tight to get the same great effect that you're getting on this,
Yeah.
on the east and south edges.
I think it's a little deceiving because we have the full lot shown there, the building, not the actual house, whereas we on everything else, the actual house will be set.
Well, I'm picturing.
Okay.
Is that where the big mound is across the street from
Yeah.
here?
Yes. So the big mounds are basically equal to the drive, you know, the second drive.
And that's the big mound.
First couple of units opposite the clubhouse along the main entrance there. They're just, you know, getting a little close, they're not, they're close to Castle Road, but they're not as nicely spaced back as the rest of the development is.
Understood.
Any other questions or comments?
And is this also, is this a mountain here too? Is there two mountains, like one here and one on top?
There is two mountains, there's a little deceiving, there's also a basin tucked in there.
Okay.
But yes, both mountains, they're both right across from the entryways. And it just sort of made sense with Press Road being a PennDOT road with the natural features you have down there to cross there with the intersection in close proximity to the bridge of the turnpike. It made sense to bring them up on the castle, the entrances, and then also across from that area, you're not, you know, headlights into another house, things of that nature.
I was gonna ask, is there any opportunity to connect this to what's in the neighborhood on the other side of the Turnpike Bridge?
Summer Wind.
Summer Wind. Like, can you walk along that bridge? It's fairly new with big shoulders, but maybe not one toe.
It's not quite, the shoulder's only about two, yeah, Mike's got it right here.
Oh, they are skinnier than I
It's not
thought.
quite, there is a trail connection right at that intersection on the corner, that was one of Claire's comments. Was to approach PennDOT and see what can be done about it, obviously, it's 476, it's a pretty massive road, so.
You just gotta go up a big hill and jump.
Yeah, zip line down.
At midnight, you can go across.
Are these gonna be public roads? Or is it all private?
We would offer them for dedication, but most likely the township would not take them, so we would, I would think, that the HOA would maintain them. If the township would like to have them, they're more than welcome, but we'd have to also design them to the proper width and cartway and everything of that nature.
You know, when I looked at it, and I said to him at first glance at it, I said, geez, it's a lot. But then there is a story to tell about how it's done. And so, you know, I already feel better about it than I did when I first looked at it. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but.
I would tell you, we walked with Roberts Road with almost all the neighbors back there. We sent out a mailer to every single resident in Summer Wind, anybody who was on Skip Back Creek and Friends and surrounding area, all of Bridal View Way. Like I said, we sent, I think, 112 letters and we had 20 people come out. And subsequently walked with a few of the neighbors. We've walked with Mr. and Mrs. Ingles back, the farm at the back here. There's definitely, I think those residents went through a lot when all that dirt got brought in here, so there was a little bit of shock for that. But I think most of them seem to be pretty on board with this. We went through a meeting, we had a buy right plan up with this plan side by side, went through all the pluses and minuses. So it's, you know, I think we've really thought that out. I don't want to speak for the neighbors, but they seem to, you know, buffering and stormwater were concerns. Roberts Road is sort of like a gravel road, township road. There's a ton of stormwater that comes down Roberts Road or the creek next to Roberts Road that gets down Skip Back Creek. The bridge is coming out by the county, we're told down there. I think we can drastically improve the stormwater that goes onto Roberts Road. You know, we're only probably about 30% of the contribution to that, so there's still a lot of water that comes onto it. But we've even looked at, potentially, we had our engineer out from Van Cleef when we walked with them, just taking all their comments and feedbacks in to see what we can do to improve those areas. I definitely think we can make some things better because currently it's an uncontrolled farm that's sheet flowing in all directions. So as we went through the process, we could help design and help improve some of the area.
Were you thinking about paving Roberts Road?
We were not.
Okay.
We were told to, we were suggested, comments were suggested to avoid Roberts Road just because the condition, I don't think the residents want more traffic back
Right.
there. The bridge is coming out already.
Right.
It's not a great situation to put another road onto.
It's closed already.
The bridge is closed already, yes. It just hasn't physically been removed, which I think it's coming out soon, what I've been told.
The approach to the whole thing is good though, the way you're going about it,
Thank you.
live and learn.
Yeah. No, it's the right approach. Obviously it's got to work for every party involved. So, slow and steady, just meeting with township staff, the building zoning and then all the neighbors is thinking the right approach.
I don't know that area well at all, and I did read that Montgomery County has closed down that bridge. I think the county.
It's been closed for a while.
For a while.
Is there not that bridge?
Don't close it out.
Right, and that's where I'm going with this. If they don't. If we can, is there an opportunity to use that bridge and Roberts Road as your bridge across Skipback for pedestrians?
So that actually came up, mixed feelings from the neighbors about that, I think.
Okay.
We had asked the township as well, like if we should even look into it. We were told that it's probably too far down the process, that bridge is coming out. It's in rough shape.
I
Because when I plugged in, it's like, Perkins, there's a bridge
But I
that's
think
used.
one, it's far down the process.
Yeah.
Two, it's in really bad shape. Three, I don't know that we want to take pedestrians on to Skipback Creek Road. There's very little in the way of shoulder and add sight lines along there, so. It's introduce a bunch of people walking along that road. I don't know if they can do it.
The other thing too is there's a farm in the corner
Yeah.
that we don't control that is would be highly involved with that. And so you're sort of going across that property to get to there. So feasibility wise, I don't think it really works.
And I know we have one question from them, so I'm gonna open that up if everybody's already.
My name is Danielle Ingalls. I live at 120 Roberts Road. You're looking at my house. I'm far next to it. Roberts Road or the bridge, actually, I just talked to the county and it's gonna be removed this spring. So clear up all those questions. My major concern is just privacy. I moved there about 10 years ago. I lived on and off that property for my entire life. My grandparents, my grandfather built that structure that I live in today. So my concern is privacy and obviously water. But I like that the trees are going to stay and I'm hoping that they'll put more in. And my other concerns, there was a question about looping the property with the trail. I like the way that the trail is presented today and not that it loops my entire property.
Which house are you? Are you the farmhouse?
I'm the farmhouse.
The farm on top of the corner, yeah. So, and we committed to working with Ingalls, should this move forward, we'll review landscaping plans with them, stormwater plans with them. Make sure it's something, they are the most highly impacted neighbor on this property, so. We have an open dialogue with them, and I hope we will keep that and make that promise.
Thank you, sir.
Can you zoom out a bit? I've asked about this in the past, and I think it's a state thing, but can we talk to the state about putting a four-way stop here?
So that's one of the comments we heard from several.
One of
neighbors.
these is the state road? Yeah.
Fred's the state road.
Yeah. And my only other comment is, older adults and high school kids going back and forth to high school. That's a high traffic road for, the high school kids.
One of the other big complaints from the neighbors was truck traffic on Castle, and they asked that, we look at that and work with the township traffic engineer to see if there's anything we've done with that. Brake retarders prohibited, things of that nature, but it is a highly traveled road. The school bus depot is down the road. That was truck traffic, not traffic in general, just truck traffic was the big concern.
Because Castle was at the schoolhouse and TSI's for the most part.
Yeah, but truck traffic was the main, not like I said, traffic in general, it's just truck traffic was a really big complaint. And again, I feel for all those residents who went through what they did with the dirt there, I can understand that.
So Franklin Township is continuing to develop Schoolhouse Road with any one of a number of warehouse distribution type facilities, which makes complete sense, but Mike, is there any opportunity for the township to not allow truck traffic on Castle? All those trucks have perfect straight shot out Schoolhouse to the 309 connector, so all they're doing is cutting through Castle to try to get a little bit further down Longwood to get out to the turnpike. They could just go straight up to the traffic light to make the right, like, if we're not impeding them in any way, and that road really isn't set up for trucks.
So I think that request should be made to the board of supervisors, and that's something that well and Seth gave vote and I'm pretty sure that the topic came up before. I know that the topic that the gentleman just brought up, the four-way stop at Kretz and Yoder, did come up as a study, and I do believe Bowman studied that with the police department. I don't think the four-way stop was warranted at the time, but don't quote me on that. But I know that it was discussed, and you know, we can pass that along to the board of supervisors to study whether or not no truck traffic signage.
Maybe we can use the introduction of a residential development on Castle as the impetus to then stop truck traffic coming through there.
So I just looked, the traffic count is 503 cars, 503 vehicles per day. So it's probably a pretty high percentage of trucks through there.
Yeah,
It's
incredibly
low traffic count, but it's.
I mean, they're just continuing to build up warehouse distribution there.
Yeah.
They literally can just go right down Schoolhouse to Longwood and make the right.
And the traffic light is the intent, right?
Yeah.
And also, once the pool goes in, I think you're sitting in that pool, and I don't want to jump that. I want to be peaceful in that pool.
He's ready.
Are you in data?
One more question, sir.
No, I was just gonna say, I think a lot of the school buses use that because they're going back to the yard of. Yeah, school.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they're not flying as fast. Anybody else? Does that give you guys enough feedback to go back and?
Yeah, I think we'd like to discuss zoning a distant touch, if you have a few more minutes, just how you think the approach would be. I think Kelly already submitted something to Mr. Freeman, if you want to run through that.
Yeah, so we've had discussions, some back and forth, myself and the township solicitor, just in terms of how this would work really within your existing zoning scheme. The good news is, I don't know who to compliment this or who this goes to, but your ordinance is already set up very well for kind of alternative cluster, you know, as we noted, and Montgomery County Planning Commission noted too, the LPOD is already a set overlay. The structure of that overlay is basically through conditional use. So it's really controlled at, you know, the board level through the conditional use process. There are specific objective criteria that you look at for each one. What we were talking about is, as John indicated earlier, something in the form of an age qualified community, which you don't currently have in your ordinance as its own development type or its own use, similar to like the golf course community. You know, as I said, and we went through the golf course community conditional use. Again, it really structures and sets up fairly well for a development like this. So that's what we would really be modeling. As I noted before, we'd be doing it around 2 dwelling units per acre. We would be reevaluating some of your dimensional criteria, especially for your townhouse units are currently defined as requiring 5. This is a bit scaled down. These are showing townhouses like clusters of 3 or 4. So we'd be looking at some of those items, but yeah, if there's any, you know, direction that you prefer, that's really what we'd like to take from here. So we can be bringing this back to the planning commission with either a working ordinance or with something for you to consider.
So if any of you remember the land preservation overlay district, that's what South of Woody, Hidden Tree, Hammersmith Farm. And some of the provisions in that specifically require that the cluster and get moved to the interior of the property to push the open space of the periphery to maintain a rural view. So I think those types of characteristics we want to impart here. I think we also talked about in the committee, minimum tract size. I think we were saying like 35 acres, which at this point would probably include this being applied to many other places in the township. So we kind of get the opportunity to say, hey, this is why it works in this situation, but you can't apply it everywhere because you need scale, to be able to create that open space for maintain the distance, and you have to do that on 10 acres here, it just doesn't work.
And we're looking at the same 55% open space that you have in the other preservation developments.
Yeah, I try to lift as many of those to make it consistent, so that the architecture of the concept stays the same, and then it's just the application. And then also, the members, this parcel is the one that the Montgomery County Planning Commission identified as currently is rural preservation, but probably shouldn't be. So we're probably gonna move to something else anyway, so this gives us a chance to make that change in concert with structure and development, somewhat the way we go.
And I think with the comments that we received from building, zoning and staff, we're already pretty much dialed into that LPOD, and we, like, the open space, the setbacks, the plan has been manipulated to fit into that box pretty nicely, so that the text amendment's not too onerous. at this
No,
point.
and we should say that I actually asked John that question earlier, like, because this is not engineered, as you all know, right? It's just concept. I said, is it gonna change? Like, what does it look like? I think, John, your answer was you're pretty comfortable that those numbers, that spatial, all of that is pretty consistent with what it's gonna come out to.
And I think we have all the feedback to date from all the neighbors from the meetings, so that once we do go to engineering, we can make sure we get as many of those items in the first iteration of the plans to help, keep the dialogue going, keep everybody involved and working to come to the plan that everybody accepts.
Yeah, again, I think the applicant has already removed some of the units that were out close to Castle. Originally, they were even closer, so they moved them back, but I think the comments that I heard that I would ask you guys to think about is proximity and placement of some of the homes, placement of the trail. And, I think the desire to create an internal loop, but also respect adjacent property owners, so maybe how you bring it around that northeast corner, some sensitivity of maybe returning a little bit sooner than otherwise. And then I think we would like to hear the next time you come in, those single family parcels on the northern side, whether they are going to be lots or footprint. Because I think that creates a different concept, at least in my mind. So what they may do is that you only own the building, and even your yard is homeowner, which means you can't put a fence, you can't put a shed, and you can't put a pool.
And we agree with that, and the next iteration of the plan would be footprint ownership, and that's how we've structured the ordinance, would be footprint ownership for the single families, as well as the other ones that are already footprint ownership.
And I know it's a sketch, but that's 75 feet to the back of the property line on the sketch. So that home is at least 100 feet off of Castle.
Oh, at least, yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Do you think at some point your amenities might include a community pool?
Yeah, it's very possible.
Maybe resale.
It is, and Judge brought up a point, with the amenities and the density, you need the density to support the amenities.
Right.
So if we start chipping away, we've already chipped away at the density. If you go into that, you can't offer.
If the answer is no, the answer is no, it's just a question.
It's not out of the realm of possibilities. We'll tailor the amenities to the lifestyle of the community.
Okay. And the price point.
Yeah, and we've done polls in other communities.
All right. Good. Thank you guys enough to go over.
Thank you.
Okay.
It was very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
AO sign ordinance.
So we're going to put this back on the agenda, so the AOSI ordinance amendment that we know of has been adopted.
Okay.
So now that is official, it's still only the 30-day appeal period, and it's official, they adopted. You mentioned at your previous planning commission meeting that you may have other thoughts and concerns about the AO ordinance or something. And this would be an opportunity to have this next thought.
And I was talking to Terry to start this call, because I don't know all the details of these 9 ordinances. And when we approved it last time, or recommended to get it approved, we talked about revisiting it, right? It's almost like a stopgap because we didn't have an ordinance there. And one of my concerns and I don't know sign business as well, is we always talk about signage on the front facing part of the building. And with the insurance building, I think there's multiple front faces. If I'm leasing out the Maple Avenue building, the old part, I may want a sign there on my Maple Avenue side. If I'm leasing out the back part, the more modern contemporary side, where Karen Ship's supposed to be, I may want one on the 113 side. And I don't know if that would be in conflict of, you know, the current ordinances, and we're saying, hey, it's only on the street facing side, and you may even, somebody may even argue I want one on the Oak Drive side of the building.
Haven't we been down this path? It's the face approaches the street of the highest classification or something?
Can't quote.
It's already.
That was like the stores over.
Right.
Like where they're being and all that, remember how like they don't have signs facing 113, we said no. There was an argument about whether we facing the street was the front or facing the parking lot was the front.
So that predates.
And even Joe brought up the point just now.
So the ordinance gives a square footage maximum for signage,
Right.
and it is from the front of the building to the street.
So is that on any front of the building to a street?
That is, those signs are regulated.
Okay, so it's on every street.
So,
On
so
what
to
street?
Scott's point, if you take the existing building. There's a part that faces Oak, a part that faces.
Unless the ordinance specifically states that we're allowed other signage on other street frontages. Then you would only be allowed a maximum amount of signage for the entire property.
Well, that's different. So it's part of it.
I still don't.
Yeah, that's different.
So no, it's not different. So the total signage is for the entire property. Okay, you might be allowed to have signage, and I have to pull up the ordinance. You might be allowed to have signage on multiple street frontages. For instance, more than one freestanding sign in some cases. However, we added that line item to the amendment that restricts the freestanding sign to the highest classification road for the AO district.
Although Joe just commented, that is 2 freestanding monument signs, one on Maple and one on 113 right now. 2 signs there.
Those are existing. signs.
I know, but I don't know what they can do with that sign, so, cause I'm telling you, yeah, from a business perspective, if I'm sitting there in that front part of the building, at least that front. The Maple Ave part of the building, I wouldn't want a sign, cause that's gonna be my entrance. That Maple Ave building is gonna be my entrance.
So
Even though my parking's on the
I'll
side.
read directly from the ordinance. A sign or a series of signs may be mounted flat up against the facade of each establishment located within a multiple occupancy property. Which this would be.
Right.
Provided that the total area and sign height of all the signs or series of signs shall conform to 107C.
And let me further read, a new section in your new ordinance says, which I think answers your questions, about where a lot or tract has more than one street frontage, a freestanding sign shall only be permitted to be placed along the street of highest classification.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you do in a situation like this when there's an existing sign up already on Maple?
It's existing non-conforming.
So it's just existing non-conforming, so they take it down, they're not getting it back up.
But they can put their own sticker on there. Joe's Barber Shop. But this is an existing sign, they're just changing the words on it.
Yeah, it's just.
So to answer a previous question about like how many signs and what street frontages. What I was alluding to before is that signs may be attached to the facade of each establishment, and a freestanding multiple directory sign may be erected with different conditions than the section I just mentioned, okay? When you have a freestanding sign, then your square footage on each establishment goes down to 20 square feet. So it doesn't matter if you are surrounded by 2 or 3 streets, your establishment is allowed to have signs that add to equal total maximum of 20 square feet
Per
establishment.
I'm confused by everything you said.
The total area of signs attached to each establishment may not exceed 20 square.
In all honesty,
Probably it's bad.
man, it's because it's late and it's maybe too much for me this time. We could table this discussion. And someone said we need to dedicate a half hour or an hour workshop or whatever we want to do during this meeting to go through this. Because this is complicated in my mind. This isn't that simple. And without knowing, because I even think about Laups's, the Harleysville Bank, old Harleysville Bank, whatever it's called. Because that scares me a little bit too, there, the signs. And what is in there now, 5 establishments? Maybe,
That's different because that's under the village commercial sign.
but I thought the ordinance that we put up at the insurance was the same ordinance, is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, is that the? I'm sorry, that's commercial.
Oh, yeah.
You're
Waiting for-
it's commercial,
Okay,
it's the same.
so what I'm saying to you, if he wanted to start putting 5 signs, light up signs on the front of that building, each 5 foot by 4 foot, 20 square feet. You put 5 20 square foot signs that light up on the front of that bank building. The old bank building.
Yeah,
Each establishment, each tenant.
Each tenant.
Establishment, they want to like, oh,
Tenant,
the tenant, it might be a lot of sides.
yeah,
the facade of each establishment, if your facade. is in the back, you can't put a sign out front because it's not on your establishment.
right.
So the
Yeah.
intent of the ordinance
It's
is
a bar. Yeah, well, the beef place won't do it, the pulled pork place won't do it,
When they're an interior establishment, it doesn't have
front facing,
a, you know,
yeah, back to back, I don't know.
Right, so the intent of the ordinance is like what you see at the shops at Hartsville or Walmart and John R.
Right,
And over at, where Plaza, where Henny's.
which is typically just a strip, and you'd have signs along the main road, which makes sense.
Right, and so that's where you would get the 20s. So it's clear from that perspective, you get 20 square foot total for each
And it's in front of your
establishment, and a
building.
freestanding sign.
Right, on the monument or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, the monument sign, freestanding. So that's the intent, that's the vision of that particular section of the ordinance. When it becomes a little bit more complex with the vault development at the whole part as well.
But he's got his monument sign now, right?
Right, they have a monument sign, so they're allocated the 20 square feet per. For each establishment, okay? And the 355 Maple Avenue, which is a district. Those are. Different, of course, than, well, we don't know what. Quite frankly, we don't know what 355 is gonna look like, but those may be different than what we know of for shops on Harleysville and over. Okay, but the regulation will still be the same unless you wanna recommend changing it. 20 square feet for each establishment when you have a freestanding.
So let's do this. We got something in place for the AM, so I feel like we've now protected ourselves. I'm also feeling better about that because the 2 monument signs are existing non-conformity. He really can't do much, and he can't do anything else until he gives us a master plan.
So he could put light boxes on those if he wanted to.
He could put,
Light boxes on them for each tenant.
but he's only got 2 tents
Well, let's say he builds out the 5 or 6 or whatever he
inside
does.
that building.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's gonna have 6 light boxes on those current monuments essentially.
right, of the size that they are.
Yeah,
Right. Which, I mean, to be honest, if you drove past, if you couldn't make the sign any bigger, so you
Yeah,
just keep
right.
making the individual elements smaller.
they're big signs actually.
Okay, so the maple oak, those aren't permanent, those are.
Maple, no, they have a beautiful sign up front, like masonry.
There's one that's a lease sign, that's a temporary, but I think there was a nationwide sign there when you come to that driveway off with,
At the drive,
yeah.
but I thought we were talking about at the intersection.
That's your use, that's what it is. Yeah, I think there's two monuments on, one at the driveway on Maple and one at the driveway on 13.
By the pillars. Right.
And then I think there's like a delivery sign or something on,
Yeah, little guy.
yeah. So were you suggesting there will be an opportunity at the next meeting to talk about this?
There are no planning commissions, not. So you will not be informed tomorrow.
Gotcha. So do you want to make this about a working session and have that be the?
If everybody else is amenable to it. I mean, me personally, I feel uninformed when I'm making some of these decisions. Because it is complicated, and as he's reading these things, in this scenario, they got this and this and this, it's hard for me to make an informed decision to say, yeah, I'm okay with this ordinance change or whatever. It's very hard for me. But if you guys are all comfortable doing it, and I'm gonna get it halfway, okay, Billy's shaking her head now, she's not.
If we don't put it on the agenda for next Monday, you're not here. You're never here.
Actually, it might be. It's not that.
And I would like David.
He's
I think I actually might do this. I'll confirm that.
Well, do we have to decide tonight if we're canceling the people?
Well, we wouldn't cancel, Mike doesn't want to cancel, Mike wants to do these types of things, and we still have meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to the plan, yeah, but I think it's important, to keep some of these, potential ordinance amendments, but there's a few more that we haven't brought to your attention. Yeah, either there's an amendment to the plant-based ordinance in Salvo. There's an amendment, I think the conditional use regulations and amendments to four small wireless communication facilities. It's not. So
We gotta talk about data centers sometime.
so right now today, we got to talk about.
So,
Oh, right,
how about this? Is there, so AO sign, Indian Valley Regional Plan, stormwater management, are any of those time sensitive?
So I was actually both of them. And I think that you can go through those, I'm speaking for Michelle, but we can go through those relatively quickly. The Indian Valley Regional Comprehensive Plan is being revised right now, and I think David Goodwin can speak a little bit, more fine-tuned than that. But it's required to be updated, and I think the board of supervisors, the planning commission recommends that they recommend a change to the.
I said time sensitive, do we have to talk about, I think we'll talk about that next month.
I don't know the answer to that question, but.
Stormwater, we're not talking about tonight.
And I trust Michelle, I don't need to know about stormwater, if Michelle says it's good, it's good.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's 9:38,
Yeah.
if we defer the bottom half of this agenda
Yep.
next month, since there's no plans to reveal, we'll make it a working session,
Yeah.
go through each of those.
Yeah.
Right.
You can get it in 20 minutes or half
Oh,
hour.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was gonna talk about the signs, but I'll wait until the next meeting.
Okay. All right. So, start,
Outlook Farm, you guys, or is that Board of Supervisors?
that's Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm a